All right, students, let's go through another primary source together. This time we have Marcus Garvey on Africa for the Africans, also in 1921. First, before we dive into the context, let me say if you want to read what the textbook has to say about Marcus Garvey and Garveyism, there's just a little brief section on it on page 767 in the Siegel edition of the Foner book. This is in chapter 19, the same chapter that World War I is in. It's titled Save for Democracy or something like that. So, what we are dealing with here is another reaction to the so-called Great Migration. And when we say the Great Migration and we talk about 1919, what we mean is a lot of black people leaving the South and heading to the North. They are going away from what they perceive, and rightfully so, the violence of the South, lynching, segregation, etc. And they think that they are going to find better conditions in the North. And let's just not pull any punches here. What they find in the North isn't that much different than what's in the South. I mean, certainly there isn't the same sort of outward animus, maybe, but there's certainly the same problems. There's lynching that occurs in the North. There's segregation that happens in the North. Race riots happen in the North. The North is not some paradise for black people. And for some, for many, actually, I would say, that this is very disappointing. It's disillusioning. And people react to that disillusion in different ways. Marcus Garvey represents a reaction to that disappointment. As the intro here tells you, he's a recent immigrant from Jamaica, and he says, you know what, maybe there's just not a place for us here in the United States. Maybe we need something that is ours. And that place is Africa. And he's tapping into the rhetoric of Wilson's claim that he wants self-determination for all peoples, and kind of the liberation of quote-unquote civilized places, at least according to white governments. So why shouldn't we have that for black people? That's what he's saying. Let's set up Africa as a place where black people can self-determine, because we obviously can't do it in the United States. That's what he's saying. Now, a couple things to know about Garvey is that he was considered to be very, very radical. Certainly Booker T. Washington had nothing kind to say about him. Du Bois, according to the textbook, had nothing kind to say about him either. They both called for his deportation. And eventually, like it says here in the intro, that is what happened to Marcus Garvey. They get him on mail fraud, and they, well, you're an immigrant, you've committed a crime, time to get out. But it's worth looking at what Garvey has to say so we can understand what this movement was all about. It's the same reason why, we want to look at other calls for either black nationalism or a sense of kind of like a separatist sort of movement. We see this with like the Nation of Islam and Louis Farrakhan and others. So that's it's something that we should pay attention to. It's again a reaction to historical phenomena. So let's dig into what Mr. Garvey has to say. He says, look, we should be really happy that this movement is moving forward. Okay, things were not going well 4 years ago, but 4 years ago we formed this organization, we've been organizing, and now it is one of the greatest forces among black people. Now, how true that is, I don't know. Obviously, he's well out of the stream here, and I don't have numbers, like how many members did the Universal Negro Improvement Association have, but that's something that you could look into. They are agitating for what? Well, here we go. By our success of the last 4 years, we'll be able to estimate the grander success of a free and redeemed Africa. And what he means by free and redeemed Africa is that black people will self-determine their governments on that continent. Now, he's not particularly clear, where these, if they're going to be different countries on the continent. He's talking about the continent in total, as far as we can tell here. Now, he continues to talk about the accomplishments here. And he says further, we hear among Negroes the cry of, quote, Africa for the Africans. This cry has become a positive, determined to escape the oppression of white America and white Europe and white everywhere else. Is we are going to have to go to Africa, and we are going to have to determine for ourselves what our lives are going to be. He continues, there's a mad rush among races everywhere towards national independence. He's saying, look at the world. Look at all of the places that, we in the wake of World War I or the Great War, we are saying these are places that now have the ability to self-determine their own government. Now, where are those places in reality? Well, they're certainly not in East Asia, they're certainly not in Africa, they're certainly not in the Middle East. But the principle of self-determination was guiding some of the process of the collapse of the German Empire, the Austro-Hungarian Empire, the Ottoman Empire, etc., though less so with the Ottoman Empire. And Garvey is saying is that should be up to that same sort of ability to self-determine should be ours as well. He continues on, and he says, the ideal of a free and redeemed Africa, men may scorn, men may spurn us, and they may say that we are on the wrong side of life, but let me tell you, that way in which you are traveling is just the way all people who are free have traveled in the past. If you want liberty, you yourselves must strike the blow. If you must be free, you must become so through your own effort, through your own initiative. So this is something that's not going to be given to us. It's something that we have to take for ourselves. Again, this is the language of self-determination. He concludes by, talking about how Africans in the past have thrown off the chains of imperialism and oppression. He calls also, it's kind of like a mini history lesson here. You did it in the Revolutionary War. You did it in the Civil War. There's American history. You did it, the battles of Marne and Verdun. Those are World War I battles. But then he goes back further. You did it in Mesopotamia. You can do it marching up the battle heights of Africa. We can do this. 400 million Negroes are prepared to die or live as free men. Hate us all you want, but we're 400 million strong. And then he says, what are my motivations? The more I remember the suffering of my forefathers, the more I remembering the lynchings and burnings in the southern states of America, the more I will fight on, even though the battle seems doubtful. It's a call for action. Fight for your liberty. It's revolutionary in this. So, I think these guiding questions that Foner gives us are really good to kind of reflect on. So, how does Garvey define black freedom? Really think that through. How do you think Garvey felt that African independence would benefit black Americans? I think if you've paid attention to the source here and some of the things that we've talked about and I've explained, I think you can answer those questions pretty well. How would you use this in an essay? Well, I don't think any of the essays that I have assigned are particularly germane for this this source. Let me look at the prompts just one more time to be absolutely sure that that is the case. But I don't think so. My computer is really slow. Okay. I mean, if you're looking at option 3, how, if at all, did World War I make the United States safe for democracy? I mean, this is something that you could use this document for that, I think. Actually, I noted as one of the key primary sources. So, you could use this as a way of explaining that democracy maybe isn't so safe, because here we have a movement that is saying, you're not respecting us, there's violence being committed against us, etc. So keep that in the back of your head. Anyway, my kingdom for some video editing skills, so I could cut out the I don't think blah blah blah. Anyway, this would be a good course to use. Anyway, I think that's all we have to say about that one. We will be back for another one soon, and keep reading and let me know if you've got any questions. Take it easy, guys.